Bride speech. In the past, women didn't give speeches at weddings, it was just the men. But thankfully times have changed and more brides are giving speeches at their wedding days. The guests will probably be delighted to hear from you and how you're feeling on this special day. But we'll also expect that you and the groom will have had a lot of other things to prepare for in the run-up to the big day, so they won't be expecting a long speech. But in my experience, it's still best to prepare for this ahead of time, just like any other speech. You'll probably want to thank a long list of people who have helped in the preparation of the wedding, and you won't want to miss anyone. So having a separate card with everyone's name on it would be very helpful, and you can easily start by saying you don't want to miss anyone, so you have a list to make sure. One thing you probably want to avoid though is doubling up on thanking everyone, as this can get pretty boring really quickly. So if you and your husband are giving a speech, why not split the thank yous between you? One of the great things about giving a speech on your wedding day is that everyone will be hugely supportive and you can pretty much say whatever you want. It's worth bearing in mind though that some of your relatives, both old and new, may not know you as well as some of your friends, or your partners of guests might not know you at all. So being overly sarcastic or quirky lines might end up causing a massive rift between you and your new family right at the start of the marriage. So make sure you bear that in mind. Introduction. Unless you're having a very small and intimate wedding, you may not have met everyone yet by the time the speeches roll around. So while we can be pretty confident that everyone will know who you are, it's still a good idea to introduce yourself as a matter of formality. This would usually get a good laugh and keep everyone in good spirits for the speeches. You'll also want to thank everyone for coming and hope they're having a good time. Now is the time to thank both your parents and the groom's parents, especially if they've been helping out with the preparations. If you're speaking after the groom and he's already done this, then you can just keep this to a few personal lines and move on rather than going over old ground again. The in-laws, or the outlaws, depending on how well you get on, the parents of the groom are important to the proceedings, and they're now your new family, so it would be good to get in a few nice words about them with personal anecdotes about your relationship. The groom will probably be thanking them more, but it's really just about your relationship with them. But you might thank them for raising such a great son, for example. The maid of honor and the bridesmaids. There's a tradition that the groom and the best man both thank the bridesmaids and the maid of honor, but it's no harm for you to do the same, especially as they've been specifically there to help you on your big day. One or two quick words about your relationship or something that happened on the hen or bachelorette party that's suitable for public consumption would be appropriate here. Your own parents and family. Now is the time to thank your own parents and family members for everything they've done for you throughout your life, in the run-up to the wedding and everything in between. Keep it brief. I know that might be a tall order given the wealth of stories and anecdotes you no doubt have about your relationship, but try to keep it brief and relevant. Now, moving on to the groom. No, not like that. Obviously, the main part of your speech should be about your groom, but don't get too gushing. You might not have known the groom for as long as his parents, but I'm sure you know some things about him that they don't. You can choose one or two anecdotes as to why you love this guy, but don't get too personal. No one wants to know what your plans are for the wedding night. If you've had a whirlwind romance and getting married quickly, or if you've been together for years, you might want to make a comment or two about this. It will help the guests get into the frame of mind and share in the special nature of the day. There's a full video later on how to start structuring your speech and how to brainstorm ideas. The best way to end your speech is with a final anecdote and a desire to build a happy and loving future together. So that's the basic outline of the bride speech. You want to thank lots of people, tell a few stories, and declare to the room of people how much you love your partner. Remember that even though it's your big day and everyone is there to celebrate with you, you really want to keep your speech to 5 minutes or under too. It might be tough to cut some of the great anecdotes and stories from people in the wedding party, but if there are a few speeches, your guests will thank you for keeping it brief. You can always tell people that you have a few other stories that you had to cut from the speech to save the public humiliation of the people involved, but you're more than happy to tell the stories one-on-one after dinner.